This is a Fox News alert. I'm James Rosen in Washington. You're watching Special Report. We have an update now on the horrific events in London of earlier today. Police now saying there that the suspect in the London attack was inspired by international terrorism. Officers believe they know the individual's identity. They have not yet revealed it. The attacker, as we've been reporting, plowed his car into a crowd of pedestrians on Westminster Bridge, then attacked a policeman with a knife inside the gates of the Parliament building while the Prime Minister was nearby. The incident ending when police shot the attacker, who is now dead. 4 innocent people are also dead, and at least 40 others. That's up from 20, including French teenagers. Romanian tourists are wounded, some quite badly. To assess this grim event, let's bring in our panel. Steve Hayes, editor-in-chief of the Weekly Standard. David Catanese, senior politics writer for U.S. News and World Report. Lisa Booth, columnist with the Washington Examiner, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Steve, you've reported on a lot of terrorist incidents and actions. Now it seems Scotland Yard is fairly firm in its conclusion that this was terrorist-derived somehow.
Certainly had all the hallmarks, as we could see right away. Comes on the 1-year anniversary of the Brussels attacks, of course. It looks a lot like, in kind, like the attacks in Nice, like the attack at Ohio State. The big question, I think, will be, is this ISIS inspired? Is this potentially ISIS directed? And what can we learn about that? Is this person some part of a network, part of a broader network? Had they communicated, has he communicated with others about the attack? Was there planning in the attack? What are the ties to transnational terrorist groups? Those are the questions we want to have answered, and answered quickly. We're
going to move on to some other of the big stories that we've been tracking today, but very quickly, David Catanese, does an event like this, an incident like this, have the potential to perhaps change the way people view these executive orders on immigration by President Trump?
It may, in the short span, but man, news moves so fast these days that, you know, and frankly, these attacks are becoming more and more common, that I think it is harder to get people focused on them and to feel like there's a sense of urgency, because they have become normal in our lives. What I thought was interesting, striking about all this, was the way President Trump reacted. It was a temperate response. It was a statement saying that he had spoken to the Prime Minister, Theresa May, and that we would as a nation stand with Britain, but it wasn't automatically pointing to radical Islamic terrorism like it was pointing right to ISIS, as he showed at some points during the campaign. So I think you know, either that was reined in by some of his advisors, but a more tempered approach by President Trump.
Very measured and very presidential, correct?
Yes.
All right, so the president also commented today on this extraordinary allegation unspooled by the House Intelligence Committee Chairman, Congressman Devin Nunes, Republican of California, who alleged that he has now seen official intelligence community evidence that some members of the Trump transition team, possibly including President-elect Trump himself, were swept up in a dragnet of legal but inappropriate surveillance. Then that was followed by statements from the ranking member on the Intelligence Committee. Let's look at how some of that unfolded today.
I have confirmed that additional names of Trump transition team members were unmasked. What I've read bothers me, and I think it should bother the president himself and his team, because I think some of it seems to be inappropriate.
The president was correct in what he tweeted?
It is possible.
The committee has still not received the intercepts or other information that the chairman was referring to, and therefore it is really impossible for us to evaluate any of the merits of what the chairman has said.
I somewhat do. I must tell you, I somewhat do. I very much appreciated the fact that they found what they found.
Charles, is President Trump right to claim some measure of vindication?
Well, we don't know. There's so much about the Nunes report that we don't know. We don't know what kind of communication was intercepted, whether, I assume it was legal. I assume, therefore, it involved a foreign person. It's, for example, an ambassador. He told us it had nothing to do with the Russians. So, and this is not new. We have known, number one, that the idea that Obama ordered the tapping of Trump, there's simply no evidence for that. There has also been a second story that we have talked about continually, which is that there appears to have been, for sure, illegal, if not illegal, improper unmasking of Americans. We know that is so because of the Flynn unmasking. What we didn't know until today is, did that apply to others? Did that involve wiretaps that did not involve the Russians? We now know that is yes. But we don't know if this is listening in on Trump operatives, on Trump himself, or whether it's chatter by others about the Trump transition. Until we know about those questions, we are in the dark the same way the leading Democrat on the committee is in the dark.
Lisa, there were some veiled allegations lodged at Chairman Nunes today to the effect that he, with his announcement today, was effectively unmasking American U.S. persons, perhaps including President Trump, and the Democratic National Committee put out a statement saying that the chairman was involved in, quote, a protection racket for Donald Trump. Do you see Chairman Nunes at risk as a result of this announcement today?
Well, I think it depends on what information, continues to surface in relation to this. But I mean, there's been so much focus on, the Trump administration, his allegations against President Obama and the Obama administration, but perhaps there should be a closer look at the Obama administration, because when you put this allegations of Chairman Nunes saying that, now we have the additional unmasking of U.S. citizens, the fact that there's been personal information with little to no foreign intelligence value that was widely disseminated, and then you put that in the backdrop of the New York Times article about the Obama administration, rushing to preserve intelligence in relation to the Russia hacking. You also put it in the backdrop of the Obama administration rushing to change the rules of the NSA to make that reporting more widely available, and it certainly does raise questions. So I think we don't know enough yet, but perhaps there needs to be a closer look at the Obama administration and what they were doing in the final days of the administration.
Steve, Lisa raises the point about this directive in the final days of the Obama presidency, whereby the rules were loosened to allow NSA intercept information to be shared more broadly across the intelligence community. And I had one former high-ranking official, Republican, write to me today to tell me that, in essence, changing the rule in that way ensured that this kind of information would be spread more widely and therefore be more easily illegally leaked, as perhaps in the case of General Flynn. What have you discovered about the decision to change the rules governing how widely this stuff can be shared?
Yeah, not much. I mean, the reality is there's so much we don't know. This is an elaborate game of telephone that's taking place behind the scenes among senior officials, intelligence officials, political officials in both parties, and nobody knows much about what's actually happened here. That's what's so striking about this. I call my sources, you call your sources.
My sources are your sources, just so you know.
Is that right?
Yeah.
They're just talking
They're that good.
It sounds like a book of Ruth.
You call around and nobody can give you the full picture, and that's sort of the nature of what we're talking about here. I mean, this information, much of it is compartmentalized, much of it is held within different agencies. It's not supposed to be widely shared. I think there are real questions about why the administration did what it did. The claims that Chairman Nunes is making today, he sort of implied that there may have been reverse targeting, that they may have sought to collect more on Trump-associated individuals by broadening the collection against foreign persons. There's the question about improper unmasking. Did that actually take place? But as of yet, we haven't seen evidence of that. And this is what I think is infuriating about this entire process. These answers are knowable. I mean, somewhere there's paperwork that can answer these questions and can answer them in an expedited fashion. We ought to see this. I mean, we're at a point where we're beginning to look like a banana republic. We need to have radical transparency on these questions, and we need to have it now.
David.
Well, I would just say, but that we should be clear. Incidentally collected, which is what the chairman said today, is different than what President Trump's allegation was that Obama wiretap. That is different. Now, I think that bears more questions, but Democrats are in a tizzy now. To your question, we need more transparency. They're saying Nunes went before television cameras and spoke to the media and is talking about classified information, and that's wrong. Going to the media first, not briefing. So now it's a partisan issue, and they want a special prosecutor, special commission. So I think there is a question within the intelligence community, within the political community, how much should they be revealing at these hearings? Should Comey have been more forthcoming? are they revealing too much now? Is too much out in the ether on intelligence?
But what Chairman Nunes said today also threatens, in essence, to expand this entire matter beyond simply the Russian investigation. And we're not just talking about the unmasking, and we're not just talking about the leaks, but perhaps what he calls inappropriate surveillance, unrelated to all of that, on the Trump transition. Charles, we've got about 15 seconds. Do you have a problem with the way Chairman Nunes handled this information?
Look, he's in a position that is utterly impossible. I think he should probably have spoken with his Democratic colleagues first, his committee first, and then perhaps the press, and then the president. I'm not sure exactly what the rush was to go to the White House, but these are smaller matters. The big matter is, what is in the intercept? What is it that disturbed him? We have to know, and that's going to have to be released. The sooner, the better.
The first entity he should have reached out to with this information, of course, was me.